Joining me now for more on this is Joseph Moreno, a former federal prosecutor. Sir, thank you for joining us here today. There is so much to talk about regarding what could be going on behind the scenes with the FBI. Give us some insight. Where are they starting with this?
So, Molly, as you just heard, they're going to start with the principals, right? So they'll start with Dr. Ford. They'll say, Dr. Ford, is there anything that's missing from what you've already told the Senate, what you've already told the media, what you've already communicated through your lawyers? Anything else we can discern? Then Judge Kavanaugh, is there anything else that you've left out that you want to share with us? Then let's look at these other individuals that may have been at this purported party. Do they corroborate? Do they rebut Dr. Ford's allegations? Look, it's possible that something new could come out of these interviews. But as you just heard, these individuals have given pretty emphatic statements about their recollection or non-recollection of these events. So it's really unlikely that all of a sudden something radically different is going to come because now they sit down with an FBI agent rather than with a Senate investigator.
Joseph, you raise a great point. We have a few pieces of some of the statements that have been put out by the people that have been brought into this, either by Christine Blasey Ford or by Judge Kavanaugh. In a statement released by Leland Kaiser's representation, Leland Kaiser being the girlfriend that Christine Blasey Ford claims was there that evening, she had said she was willing to cooperate with the FBI's investigation, but notes in that letter that she doesn't know Judge Kavanaugh. And she says in this statement, Ms. Kaiser does not refute Mr. Ford's account, and she is Dr. Ford's account, and she has already told the press she believes Dr. Ford's account. However, the simple and unchangeable truth is that she is unable to corroborate it because she has no recollection of the incident in question. So what sort of information might the FBI be looking for that friend who has said she is willing to speak with them?
So, I mean, let's push on some details. How often did she socialize with Dr. Ford? Did they ever go to parties together? Does she have any concept of where perhaps this party could have taken place? What houses did they hang out in? What neighborhoods did they hang out in? Remember, there's some critical missing pieces here. Date, time, location. It is almost impossible for a prosecutor to take a case anywhere if you don't have those key details. So, to the extent they can, the FBI should be hyper-focused on at least trying to nail down those details. And they can do it through these interviews. There's even some records. I mean, they can go to the Columbia Country Club. They could go to phone records in the remote possibility that there are still local usage details from phones, and perhaps look to see where Dr. Ford may have made phone calls to from her landline at her parents' house. I mean, there are some avenues they can investigate, but again, because this is so old, because memories fade, because records may or may not exist anymore, it's going to be difficult to discern anything new as a result of this investigation.
Another key individual in this is Mark Judge, who is the friend that Dr. Ford claims was there along with Brett Kavanaugh. And he wrote, or his representation has sent a letter saying that he's also willing to cooperate. But this is what he says: I will cooperate with any law enforcement agency that is assigned to confidentially investigate these allegations. Highlighting the word confidentially there, if he does speak with the FBI, can he make that kind of a deal? Is this really up to the FBI if they release what he says to them in a final report or not? Is he entitled to any sort of confidentiality?
Look, if he makes a statement to the FBI, it's going to go into a 302, which is an FBI interview report. That 302 will be handed to the Senate. What they do with it is their decision, but I feel like it's difficult to guarantee any kind of confidentiality of anything he says. So it's great to hear that he's going to cooperate, and he is a key witness, and I do think it's important that we hear from him through an FBI interview. But as far as keeping it confidential, that's going to be difficult. Once he starts speaking, it's sort of fair game.
Something else to note, Senator Flake, who had sort of initially drawn the attention for calling for this, argued that it should be limited in scope. But here's something from U.S. Senator Bernie Sanders. He sent the following letter on Saturday to the Judiciary Committee. He says, a fundamental question the FBI can help answer is whether Judge Kavanaugh has been truthful with the committee. This goes to the very heart of whether he should be confirmed to the court. So the question is, how broad of a scope will the FBI be looking at? Will they be looking at specifically whether or not they can find out anything about an alleged attack on Dr. Ford, or will it be much broader as to whether or not Judge Kavanaugh had misled the Senate Judiciary Committee in any way, or misspoke or lied? Will they be looking into whether or not, his claims about how much he drank or didn't drink, that sort of thing?
If they uncover information, whether it's from Judge Kavanaugh or Dr. Ford or anyone else, that contradicts something that Judge Kavanaugh has said, then certainly that should come out. And that should be then reconciled to why there's some kind of discrepancy. But beyond that, they are not going to make judgments as to whether someone is telling the truth. There's no polygraphs in an investigation like this. They're not going to sit there and say, well, I think he's telling the truth or I think he's lying and make a note in the 302. All they're going to do is capture what he says. And he might say nothing more than everything I've already said is true and I have nothing else to add. So there's not a whole lot to do there. So again, they'll look at evidence, and if there's contradictory evidence, that's fair game, and we should figure out why it's contradictory. But otherwise, it's kind of, well, what he says is what goes on the record.
Could this potentially be what causes a problem for Republicans that say, you know, if this comes out clear and there's no further evidence to say whether or not this occurred 36 years ago, but there is evidence to show that a discrepancy in the amount that he drank or how much he partied with his friends, would that be a big problem for Judge Kavanaugh as the Republicans are looking at whatever comes out of the FBI report?
I mean, that seems like we're getting pretty petty. I mean, it's one thing, look, if they catch anyone in an explicit lie, there should be serious consequences. And if it's from Judge Kavanaugh, he should not sit on the Supreme Court. If we're talking about nuances between I drank 3 beers versus 4 beers, and I blacked out versus fell asleep, and they're talking about that level of distinction, look, that's a decision that every senator has to make for themselves, but I think that's getting pretty petty.
How quickly do you think this will be wrapped up?
Well, look, they've set a parameter at a week. I think that's a good first step because
does the FBI have to stick to that?
I think the only person at this point that should weigh in on where the FBI is a week from now is the FBI. So hopefully, Director Wray will appoint a very accomplished man or woman special agent in charge who will be in charge of this background check. At that point, whatever that person says about how much time they need, what they've done, where they are at the 1 week point should be given a lot of credence. I have a lot less interest in hearing from what individual senators feel or what lawyers for individuals feel as to the length of time and the acceptability of this investigation. So I would defer to the FBI. I would check with them daily. And if they say they're done within a week, I would believe them. If they say they need more time, I would say how much? Let's figure it out and let's go forward from there. Do
you believe that right now there are a group of agents just working in a flurry on this?
Look, I hope so. I mean, I've worked for the FBI. I've worked with the FBI. They are fantastic men and women. They can get it done. I'm sure they're taking this seriously, highest priority, and they're doing everything they can. And I think it's very optimistic to hear that so far everyone has expressed an interest in cooperating. That's a great sign. Let's hope it gets done right, and restore some confidence by the American people in this process, because that confidence has been eroded, and there's blame to go on both sides, but this is a good step in the right direction.
When you're looking at even this brief amount of time, and we've already seen so many statements saying that many people just don't have recollections of this, you know, what could potentially come out? If you have no recollection of a given night, what's the new information you might be able to share?
No, that's the big question, Molly, right? I mean, probably not much. So, I mean, you know, you could ask the same question a number of different ways, right? You can try to elicit information, and FBI agents are really good at that. So if anybody's going to elicit information, it's them. But the fact is, we've been over this now through Senate investigators, through lawyers, through, let's be honest, a very active media that's also looking into this very, with a fine-tooth comb. So the idea that all of a sudden in 7 days the FBI is going to uncover something new from 30-something-year-old memories is highly unlikely.
I want to see, we're just seeing a little bit of breaking news here. This from the Washington Post, that the FBI has reached out to Deborah Ramirez. Remember, she's the classmate of Kavanaugh's from Yale who had claimed that Mr. Kavanaugh had exposed himself at that time at a party. What do you think that says, that they are reaching out to some of the women beyond Dr. Ford that have come forward to make some allegations?
Look, their mandate is to look into credible allegations against Judge Kavanaugh. So the first thing they should do is let's figure out if something is credible. And the first step in doing that is let's get a sworn statement. So they should get a sworn statement from Ms. Ramirez. They should not believe what's in the New Yorker. They should get it directly from her, not through a lawyer, not through the media, not through an intermediary, and say, tell us your story. What do you have to say to us? If they feel it's credible, and is worthy of looking into, then by all means. If it's not credible, they should not waste time on it.
All right. Joseph Moreno, thank you so much for giving us your insights here today as we continue to look at this. A short period of time, and all of the eyes of the nation are on this. So thank you.
Thank you, Molly. Good to be here.